Hey, again, it's Tom from tdjacobs.com and healingsuicide.com. Um, I don't often read the YouTube comments. I mean to, but then I get affected by reading other people's writing. It's been challenging because used to love reading fiction and nonfiction, but it's really the whole channeling thing is kind of anyway, so I feel people's energy when I read. So anyway, I don't always go through the comments, but I wanted to go through the comments on recent videos, and I came across one comment that includes a question, and I want to turn it into a brief video here. And the question is, I know that I can't own another person all by myself, but honestly, the thought of sharing their intimacy with someone else really destroys me. How can I solve this paradox situation? And this is from it appears to be Michaela. Anyway, so um, let's return to one of the things I talked about in the on. This is a response to the on love, including thoughts on polyamory video from, I don't know, within the last couple of weeks. So let's return to the idea of what love is, where it comes from, and who's responsible for giving it to whom. The Ascended Master Ed channel, I think I mentioned it, I would have mentioned in that video, it was long enough that I would have gotten to this point. Jehudi, spelled Djehuty, or Thoth, or Saint Germain, or Merlin, or Hermes. Yes, that Hermes, I like to say. Everybody seems to know who Hermes is, and then these other names are just different faces, different functions and expressions of that same consciousness. So he's the mercurial figure in all cultures, in all mythologies. So he says in the first 4 channeled books I put out, they're collected in Jehudi Speaks. I'll put a link down below in the description of the video. The first 4 books are collected into Jehudi Speaks. The first 4 books are Approaching Love. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about now is in there. And then ooh, what's it called? What's the second book? Understanding Loss and Death. Third book is Goddess Past, Present, and Future, about the genesis and function of the patriarchy. All these books are very helpful. And then the 4th book is a Conscious Revolution, and it's about kind of like a manual for living on Earth during these times. In the first 4 books, he says over and over again, all humans are dealing with what love is, these quandaries, these questions. What is it? Where does it come from? Who's responsible for giving love to whom? In the 5th book, he starts talking about which is called Conscious Living, Conscious Dying. He talks about how we are each here to become the source of love for ourselves. Now, when you say that to me, I'm like, what? But if you say to me, you're here to validate yourself in the ways that no one else could. Oh, well, that makes a little more sense. You're here to know, acknowledge, recognize, embrace, celebrate yourself, validate yourself in ways that others can't or haven't or wouldn't or won't. I have to put all this in there. That makes more sense to me because that gives me practical nudges toward practical behaviors, which is what I've been producing for about 20 years now. By the way, I just hit this mark. I don't know if I said it in a recent video, but I think it was August 24th or 25th of 2004 was my first paying client. So I'm having like a 20-year anniversary right now of being steeped in all this stuff and diving in and life changing, work changing. So the first 3 things, what is love? Where does it come from? Who's responsible for giving it to whom? The answer is, but you're here to learn to become the source of love for yourself. So we cycle through those first 3 things over and over and over and over again. When I feel like a golden retriever, do you love me? Do you love me? Are you my mom? Are you my mommy? When I feel like that, it's funny. I can laugh at myself. But the reality is there is a part of me that looks externally for love and validation. So this is natural for all of us, no matter our chronological age. Potentially, we all have this. Or I would say it's almost a guarantee we have each had it at some phase or during some portion of life. Why is that? Because we're born squirming babies, helpless and clueless, and we don't know how to care for ourselves or how to validate ourselves. So we learn certain techniques or methods and approaches from families of origin, but then we always have to upgrade and improve. And some of us don't learn that. So we go into adult kinds of relationships and I just can't get what I need. So this acceptance, acknowledgement, validation thing, which is a way of describing self-love, this is the goal. So the person Michaela or Michael A. I think Michaela, sorry, not but anyway, you're asking, how do I resolve this paradox? Well, think about, where does love come from? Where do you think love comes from? But what I really mean is, where does where oh my gosh, where does love come from? Consult different parts of you. There could be an inner child, and I say this with absolute respect. I don't criticize anybody if an inner child is very active or loud or, so to speak, running their love life. There's no criticism here because we're here to learn how to deal with these things. But let's say there's an inner child who's very loud, and when you tune into it, you're like, oh my gosh, I think that part of me is 8 years old or 12 years old or 4 years old or whatever, seeking validation. You may not be able to discern an age, but you might have a sense of, the logic of this part seems to fit with a 10-year-old or something, or a 5-year-old. Those kinds of differences are quite obvious in us as young people. So part of you has this, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Sharing the intimacy with somebody else really destroys you. So what does that other person's intimacy mean? So first, what is love? Where does it come from? Number two, what does it mean that that person shares intimacy with you? And spend some time on that. Hence my pausing. I mean, like months, a year. Like, spend some time on it and be generous of spirit and compassion with yourself if part of you is like a child and just needs safety and security and support and validation. But then also think about, what it means this person would want to share intimacy with somebody else also. This is part of the homework of the polyamory conversation. Because it's not, as I said in the first video, if some people think in a very rudimentary way without consideration or make assumptions, oh, you just want to have sex with somebody else. And I said, it's really a process of learning about what love is, where it comes from. It's a process of learning about what love is. So we have to ask ourselves these questions, and I'm encouraging everybody who hears this to refuse to shame the responses. As I said, be generous of spirit. Be compassionate, because parts of you probably feel invalidated by childhood experiences, which repeat in different ways in our adult lives. So part of you is not wrong to want security in a relationship. You're not wrong that part of you wants security. You're not wrong to have the experience that intimacy is special, that when someone opens themselves to you, that it means something. That, gosh, I've been thinking a lot about the polyamory thing this week, even since that video, just all these questions and things coming up and different things. And one of the things that came up was, this happens all the time, was a cover in a video on YouTube by a cover band I'm obsessed with. And it was, the original song is Simple Minds, Don't Forget About Me. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Don't You Forget About Me. Okay. So one of the lyrics is, and all the tender things that we were working on. And this week, I mean, I've heard that song since the 80s when it came out, when I was a kid in the backseat of the car. And over and over again, right? I've heard that song so many times. And just hearing that lyric, and I thought, because I related to that, the tender things that we're working on, which I've had some experience with that, but in a current relationship, I'm certainly in that space, and I'm like, whoa, yeah. And the intimacy reaches down into us. It exposes, I would say it opens deep parts of us, but we may feel in opened, being opened, exposed. And the tender things we're working on. Like we're learning about each other's emotional landmines, each other's dreams and goals. We're learning about each other's fears and doubts, and we're maybe we're supporting each other, we're helping each other become more empowered. And I see you as more as stronger than parts of you may see yourself, and vice versa. So there are tender things when intimacy is involved. So what does it mean if somebody wants also to share intimacy with somebody else besides you? So you're in charge of deciding what it means. I know that was a long tangent. I was trying to remember words and whatever. I think Mercury's just now direct. I'm adjusting to it being so slow, but moving. So you're not wrong for any of the feelings and fears. You're not wrong if doubts come up. You're not wrong. But I would love for you to frame this as if this situation kind of comes up for you, what does it mean about me? What does it mean about that person? What does it mean about the third person, the other person? On that note, I want to say something about, I was very careful to say how I define polyamory in the last video. There are different definitions. Honestly, I encourage you to read books. I encourage you to talk to people who have these experiences. Um, and encourage you to meet other people in a supportive way. Like I told you, we went to a meeting years ago of people who are into this, and my partner saw that video, and was like, I don't remember that. Like she forgot, but I did not. And encourage you to have rational conversations and also maybe therapeutic conversations, because working through these things can be very hard, because if you find an inner kid who feels unloved and now feels safe because you're in a relationship, and then that person wants to explore intimacy with somebody else, and the whole, it seems like a house of cards and so fragile and everything's going to blow up. Maybe a therapeutic conversation is in order, and I'm happy to do that with people. Obviously, I do it through astrology with spirit guides and the Ascended Masters, but happy to do that. You can see what sessions I offer at tdjacobs.com under readings and consultations. I'll put that link in the description too. But what I want to say is, when you realize what parts of you believe love is, then you can make some progress on being compassionate with those fears and concerns. And I had to go through this. I don't know if I said this in the video the other day, but well, I don't want to make this too long. So either way, I'll just move on for a minute. But it is challenging. It is challenging. And I just encourage you to listen to the parts of you with compassion, even as you feel the feelings and feel like stirred up. So how can I solve this paradox situation? Really defining for yourself what love is, what you believe it should be, and why you believe that. And what, not picking on you, Michaela, but what people would find in getting into that will be, if it's not obvious right away, it would come up quite quickly, I think, suddenly, where the person goes, yeah, but my mom did this, or, but my dad was never there. And then it's like, yeah, but we're talking about your relationship now, or potential relationships now. So we have to go back to to the lower chakras. We have to go back to the root chakra and really look at what we were shown love is and is not. Does love mean loyalty? Is love evidenced by commitment and loyalty? The other thing I've been going through this week is this extreme. I've talked about this a little, but I'm still a little embarrassed about it. Well, I shouldn't be embarrassed, but I was looking for Vesta a few years ago, and I'm preparing a series of videos on Vesta for several reasons. But the first Vesta I found that I recognized was the singer-songwriter Dua Lipa. And before this, she was just another name of a pop singer that I wouldn't care about. And then I looked up her chart because something was intriguing about her. I saw her in an interview, and she some talk show, and she was almost interviewing the person, the host, and it was very sensitive and thoughtful. And I said, well, who is this person? So so I looked up some videos, and I was like, well, she's interesting. So I looked up her chart, and she has Vesta conjunct Sun in the 10th house. So I started watching a lot of her music and interviews live and the official videos, whatever, but also interviews, getting a sense of her energy. And I saw Vesta. I saw Vesta. So the other day, and the song that really triggers it for me is Be the One, which is, I guess, from 2016 from her first album. And it's kind of central to her work and success and everything. And it's like Vesta singing this song about Juno issues, if you're into astrology. Vesta's about devotion, and she carries this energy. Like, it's about her job, it's about her work, but Vesta cares about the community. And if you see her work the crowd at in a video of a live concert, you see it. By the way, Kamala Harris has Vesta on her midheaven with Saturn. So that's some of the videos that are going to come out soon. And so anyway, this sense of this Vesta devotion, and because the lyrics are like yeah, something like, give me a chance, I'll show you, I won't run away, I won't let you down and run, I won't let you down, I could be the one. So it sounds like a Juno thing, commitment, marriage, something like that. But for me, it's like being true. For me, an expression of love includes being true. Like, I don't see commitment for me as proof of love. But when somebody with integrity is honest with me, I feel loved. So I think I've always been looking for Vesta people, honestly. And I'm starting to identify the frequency. And I was just sitting listening to not covers, live versions of that song, concert versions, and live versions from radio shows and stuff of her singing that. I just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. Cry, 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 cry. Went to a restaurant, I had lunch. Cry, 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 cry. Like the servers there and the wait staff, they know. They've seen me cry a lot as I've gone there a few times, and I'm always crying in public. But it just really affected me, this sense of a different definition of what love is. Being honest, being straightforward. And what that can allow is detaching. And this is kind of where I want to get to Michaela's question. Detaching from the sense of this other person and the affection and intimacy we share makes me feel safe. Let me get in my own body and my own heart. Let me validate myself, which, as I've said, it can be very difficult. But then let me release another person or other people of the need to make me feel safe. That's why I went into the inner kid stuff before, because that's a very prevalent theme when we do inner child work, is the need to feel safe. And if we chase external markers of safety, we fail to see how to develop inner security. So I'll also put a link to the chakra course that I offer, because it's really helped a lot of people get their heads straight about inner security versus chasing evidence of external safety, which is the domain of inner children. So, Michaela and anybody else, I hope this has been helpful. Dethroning other people from the expectation. Yeah, I said dethroning, as if they have all the power to make us feel okay, and becoming that self-validating influence for the inner children, for the past life parts, whatever. Okay, so I think they're going to be more in this series, because since I posted this 8 or 10 days ago, the first one, I've been thinking a lot about what questions can come up, and then I just saw the question in the comments and decided to jump on it. So hope this is helpful for you. Check out the links below. Subscribe to my feed or my channel, and hit the like button. I never say that, so I'm saying it today for the first time. All right, take care.